Welcome back to Capital Catch-Up, your insider guide to the halls of Congress. I'm Victor.
And I'm Linny. It is late January 2026, and the 119th Congress is in full swing. We have a massive amount of ground to cover today, from a slew of judicial nominations to the heavy machinery of government funding finally grinding its way forward.
That's right, Lenny. If you thought the start of the year would be a slow ease-in, think again. The congressional record for the week of January 20th, specifically Volume 172, numbers 13 through 15, shows a House floor that is absolutely buzzing. The headline story, without a doubt, is the money.
It always is, isn't it? We are looking at a major push to finalize the federal checkbook for fiscal year 2026. We saw the introduction and movement of House Resolution 7148, the Consolidated Appropriations Act 2026, alongside House Resolution 7147, the further Consolidated Appropriations Bill.
And don't forget House Resolution 7006, which specifically targets financial services, general government, and the Department of State. These aren't small bills, Lenny. This is the lifeblood of the federal government. But what I found interesting was the legislative gymnastics required to get these on the floor. We saw House Resolution 1014 pass recently.
Right, and for our listeners who might get glazed eyes at the sound of a resolution number, House Resolution 1014 is what we call a special rule. Essentially, before the House can debate these massive spending bills, they have to agree on how they will debate them, how much time, what amendments are allowed. House Resolution 1014 was the key that unlocked the door for those appropriations bills to proceed.
It's a procedure that dates back to the very first Congresses, though it's become much more restrictive in modern times. This rule sets the stage for what looks like a successful funding cycle for 2026. But it wasn't just about spending money. It was also about how the House governs itself. We saw House Resolution 5, adopting the rules of the House of Representatives for the 119th Congress.
Which is fascinating, Victor, because typically we see the big rules package on day one of a new Congress. Seeing House Resolution 5 active here in January 2026, the start of the second session, suggests there were some necessary adjustments or readoptions needed to keep the chamber running smoothly for the remainder of the term.
Moving away from procedure to policy that hits the kitchen table, there were some significant moves in education and workforce development. I'm looking at House Resolution 6418, the Employee Profit Sharing Encouragement Act of 2025.
That's a big one. This builds on decades of efforts to link employee compensation closer to company performance. The idea is that if the company succeeds, the worker should see that in their paycheck immediately, not just in a 401k. Speaking of education, we also saw House Resolution 3453, the Empower Charter School Educators to Lead Act.
That bill is going to reignite the debate on how federal funds are accessed by charter leaders versus traditional public school districts. But there's another bill here, Lenny, that caught my eye regarding student rights. House Resolution 6359, the Pregnant Students' Rights Act.
This is a crucial piece of legislation. It mandates that higher education institutions clearly communicate the rights and resources available to pregnant students. Historically, pregnant students often felt pushed out of academia. This bill attempts to codify support systems, ensuring that choosing to carry a pregnancy doesn't mean dropping out of school.
Shifting gears to healthcare, we have a bipartisan push on cardiac care. House Resolution 6894, the Increasing Access to Quality Cardiac Rehabilitation Act of 2025, is moving. This is about expanding who can prescribe rehab and where it can happen, potentially a lifesaver for rural Americans who don't live next to a major hospital.
And sticking with health, we saw parallel action in both chambers, Senate Bill 3350 and House Resolution 4773, both titled the ACO Assignment Improvement Act of 2025.
Exactly. If they save money while keeping patients healthy, they get a piece of the savings. These bills aim to fix the technical formulas for how patients are assigned to these groups, which sounds dry, but it determines billions of dollars in Medicare flow.
On the Senate side, I want to highlight Senate Bill 3563. This requires the Secretary of Defense to implement open technical standards for digital content provenance.
In plain English, it's an anti-deepfake bill.
Precisely. With the explosion of AI, the Pentagon needs a way to verify if a video or image is real or manipulated. This is the first major legislative step we've seen in 2026 to standardize that verification process for national security.
We also saw House Resolution 965, setting up consideration for a bill concerning temporary protected status, or TPS, for Haiti. Given the ongoing instability there, this resolution is vital for thousands of Haitian nationals currently in the U.S., protecting them from deportation.
Let's look at what the committees have been up to. It has been a marathon week for the House Veterans Affairs Committee. On January 13th, they held a massive legislative hearing covering over a dozen drafts and bills, including the Beacon Act and the Data-Driven Suicide Prevention Act.
That hearing also covered the Blast Overpressure Research and Mitigation Task Force Act. This is a direct response to the rising awareness of brain injuries caused not by direct impact, but by the shockwaves from artillery and explosives. It's an invisible wound that Congress is finally trying to document.
The Energy and Commerce Committee has been busy too. On January 7th, they held a hearing titled American Energy Dominance: Dawn of the New Nuclear Era. This signals a strong legislative push to revive nuclear power as a baseload green energy source, likely coordinating with House Resolution 375, which designates May 2025 as Renewable Fuels Month.
And on the oversight front, things got heated. We had a hearing on the DNC and RNC pipe bombs, an investigation that stems from the events of January 6, 2021. 5 years later, they are still digging into the failures to catch the perpetrator. Plus, a hearing on anti-American antitrust, exploring how foreign governments target U.S. businesses.
We can't wrap up without mentioning the flood of nominations. The Senate is moving at light speed to fill judicial vacancies. We saw nominations for Nicholas John Ganji for the Southern District of Texas, David Clay Folks for Western Arkansas, and Megan Blair Benton for Western Missouri.
And it's not just judges. We saw nominations for U.S. attorneys across the map: Andrew Benson for Maine, William Boyle for North Carolina, and Brian David Miller for Pennsylvania. This is a concerted effort to clear the backlog in the federal justice system.
So, Victor, looking at the schedule for the next few days, what should our listeners watch for?
Keep your eyes on the Homeland Security Committee. They have a hearing on January 22nd regarding smarter borders and non-intrusive inspection technology. This is about scanning trucks for fentanyl and contraband without stopping commerce.
And I'm watching the Natural Resources Markup on the 22nd. They are tackling the Tribal Trust Land Homeownership Act and the Enhancing Safety for Animals Act. It's going to be a busy end to the month.
Indeed. From the billions in appropriations to the granular details of tribal land rights, Congress is moving. We'll be here to track it all.
Thanks for listening to Capital Catch-Up. We'll see you next time.